Sup guys, Xanderson977 here today to do Tokyo Ghoul episode 6 review. Now in this episode of Tokyo Ghoul, right, we obviously was pretty much excited and stoked for last week's episode, episode finale. It was ending on the cliffhanger when Touka activated her Kagune. She backed off Shukisama's no, she backed off Sukiyama's Kagune, and then she got riled up pretty much. Got prepared for the fight to go down. Now we obviously get to see the continuation of that fight, and I have to say that at the end of it all, Touka-chan, she pretty much owned Sukiyama. She owned his ass. Sukiyama, he was being backed up time and time again, right? The first time when he got pretty much manhandled by her and beaten down, he got back up and I guess put more power, more emphasis, or powered up a bit. Where his Kagune initially was this spiraling sharp pointed thing, something like a spear that he would use to pierce people with, but he poured it up into this large knife looking thing, right? And not even that could get the better of Toka's Kagune, right? She pretty much manhandled him pretty easily. He was even forced to try to go after Kimi Chan, that is Nishio's girlfriend, to try to get sustenance because he was strong enough. He was bleeding too much. He was getting his ass whooped. He was getting beat, and yeah, Touka was pretty much too much for him in that case. So this is quite interesting because the gourmet, right, in the 20th ward, even though as stated thus far, the 20th ward is normally one of those wards or areas that is not normally full of activity, right? It was normally considered a quiet ward until ghouls like Gourmet, which is Sukiyama, Rize, the Gourmet, the binge eater, ghoul binge eater, which is now dead, and Kaneki has her powers, and Jason, which we also end up seeing later in this episode, and we get to him later. So those three guys there, I'm guessing because of their comparison, they would be somewhere around the same level of strength. Even though I have to admit that out of all of them, I probably assume Sukiyama Gourmet to be the least strong in terms of strength. Right? I'm guessing that they label these three guys because these are the more prominent ghouls out of in the 20th ward at least. These are the guys who are more prominent. But Sukiyama, he got his ass whooped. He couldn't handle Touka at all, and her power, it can change between two forms from what I noticed. It changes into a form where it kind of crystallizes into these ice sharp pointed looking things where she fires them out at you and it can pierce all over the body, very dangerous attack, and also changes out into this flowing gaseous looking red thing right behind her back. So her Kagune is a very unique Kagune. In fact, yes, we haven't seen any other Kagune being displayed like this before. Very unique. So after the fight was done with, or rather after Touka pretty much owned Shukiyama's ass and he was running to get sustenance from Kimi, Nishio, right, we pretty much thought this dude was dead, or at least I thought he was dead. He held on to Sukiyama and was not willing to let go in the slightest until Touka came in and did this slashing attack across his face. But because it was censored out, we didn't get to see an idea of the damage that was really done. And I haven't read the manga as of yet. It is in my intention to eventually read the manga because I'm sure that the manga will now shut up in terms of popularity because of anime, and it is my intention to read the manga, but I haven't gotten to reading it yet. So at this point in time, I have no idea of how really damaged he was, except for what's hinted that probably a part of his face and that some section of the upper half of his body was damaged pretty badly. So yes, Touka didn't mean really badly. And Nishio, after Tsukiyama was dealt with, Touka, she wanted to pretty much kill Kimi because she's saying that as a human she knows too much about them. And Nishio, she got ready for her Kaguni to attack. Nishio went in the way after all that damage, after being worn out, constantly, right? Man, this dude has a ton of resilience. It's either he is very resilient or ghouls in general are very resilient, right? After being dealt with so badly, right, in terms of damage and all of that, being worn out, he still got up, took that damage, and he was still alive afterwards. And then Kaneki, he took the initial attack, and Kimi, her blindfold came off, so she saw who it was, and her first initial impression was, "Whoa, she's pretty, that's pretty." And I guess it was a trigger for Toka in some way, something having to do with her past. I'm sure that we'll eventually get to that later, but it triggered her when she said that she's pretty, and she ran off immediately. Kaneki and Nisha was trying to negotiate with her that not because she's a human that doesn't mean that she can't be trusted. It's the same way how she has her friend Yoriko and she trusts her, and it's the same for Kaneki and his friend Hide, so it basically explained that it's not fair, and she was wanting to kill her anyways until she got told that she was pretty and she ran off. And the next thing we see is her high up on some building, kneeling down in the fetal position, saying that, "Am I really pretty after all?" or something like that, So there's some funny stuff right there. I'm sure that that's having to do with her backstory, her past, and all of that, which we will eventually get to later on. But that was interesting. It's an interesting insight into not just Touka, but yes, basically into Touka. And it's good that they defeated that guy Gourmet. He was saying himself that he wouldn't be able to heal from a wound like that for quite a while, so at least he won't be in action for quite a while. And even after going down, right, his last words, he just wanted to taste Kaneki so much. So I'm sure that even though he's not dead, when he eventually he's back up, he will be a burden on Kaneki. They will have to figure out how to deal with him. Either Kaneki himself gets stronger where he can pretty much push off and resist this dude, and he won't necessarily need others help. But Tsukiyama will always be a constant threat for Kaneki in that case. And then the second part of this anime episode revolves around the little girl Hinami, her mother Ryoko, and their father. Now, their father is some kind of doctor that works for these ghouls and other people, and it's actually found out that he's actually a ghoul himself, because we know that Hinami is a full-blown ghoul, so that means that both her parents have to be ghouls as well. And right before the confrontation with Jason, right, Hinami was shouting at her mother that she wants to go back to her father, she wants to go back home, she misses him. But Roka, she was basically not agreeing with her in the fact that it's not necessarily safe. But then Kaneki, which is actually the catalyst for them talking out their problems and coming together, Kaneki went up to Roka and was asking her about them and the whole situation, and a couple of things was said, but because Kaneki got Roka to think about their relationship in that matter, it was a given impetus that Miss Ryoko needed to go back to Hinami, right, to talk about it and to basically tell her that she understands how she feels and she's not alone. And then she basically tells her that how about us just waiting for their father to come home instead of wanting to go out to them. And eventually everything between them got sorted out, everything was ironed out eventually. So Kaneki, right there, he was the impetus for bringing both mother and daughter back together in that situation, which is good of him. And then to the other part, and I dare say the most interesting part of this episode is the confrontation with Jason. Now Jason, he shows up, right, and we didn't get to see his father's face, but he has these pictures, or rather these pictures of these art drawings that I'm sure that his daughter must have drawn, putting up on the walls and all of that. He's using that as he put that up in his office space and was basically keeping them there. Jason came in and he wanted his weapon or whatever his father was supposed to make for him. And now since he came in, he took up this picture that was drawn by Hinami of his other three of them in his family. The doctor guy told him that there's a weapon, and he used it and said yes, he likes it very much. But then Jason came back and damaged this dude for some reason that he was cooperating with the humans or planning with the humans, right? So he gets blasted out, and upon getting blasted out, who do we see show up? Amon and Mado, right? Mado is that guy, weird looking guy with one big eye and one small eye. And so they want to face off against Jason, and they call Jason that he is actually the 13th ward's big fish, and it's strange how he's actually the 20th ward. So they decided that they were going to go all out and they're going to fight him right here. So those suitcases that they have, it retracted, and we see their real form, the weapons of their form, and we see them begin to use it and begin to hunt down after Jason. But Jason, I have to say, he was easily dodging all the attacks, he was easily evading them, he wasn't phased even in the slightest. In fact, when he was facing Mado, he basically threw Amon to one side, right? He was basically knocked down for a bit. And now Mado, who seems to be the more experienced, who seems to be the better fighting one, as stated by Jason himself, was coming down on Jason, and his weapon was unique in the fact that he thought there was an opening, so he came in closer to attack Mado, but it was actually a trap. His weapon kind of retracted around Jason, was trying to close in on him to damage him, but he used his Kagune, and his Kagune also looks unique. It looks like some feathery wings, some feathery wings of a sort. So he uses his Kagune. That's the only slightest hint of any sign of deliberate action that was forced out of him. He was fighting them pretty lax, pretty easy, right? This fight for Jason was no problem at all. He basically told them that they were going to fight for 2 minutes. After that point, he told them that their time was up, and it just went off. So Jason is in fact another ghoul. Jason is in fact a ghoul. So that's good to know. And then after they went off, the doctor guy that was left, right? He got up, tried to use his Kagune to fight them, but to no avail. He was killed by them. So they basically have that picture that he has all bloodied up now because he got killed, and Amon and Mother are trying to get to the bottom of this situation, to get rid of ghouls. So on that note, now the scene shifts over to Kaneki, right, and Hinami. He was teaching her new words, of course, and right now Hinami basically, she has read enough of the book where she knows all of the kanji in her book now, which is impressive. So she's grown her reading ability, so she knows all of the kanji in her book, and she tells her mom that she wants another book, and her mom agrees, and they decide to go out to the store to buy a book. But when they went out to the store, it began to rain, so they're walking home. We get to see the Doves guy using a picture, asking around, look like they're searching for someone. While they were searching, Hinami's mother picked them out and realized that those guys are dangerous, and I don't know how she realized it, but she realized it. And then all of a sudden they began walking in the opposite direction, but they realized that something was up between that woman and her daughter. And then all of a sudden at that point, Hinami began to say that she smelled her father's scent, and she was running, and she said, mom, I smell my father's scent. And she began running all the way up into this alleyway with Amon and Mado standing side by side waiting for them, right? And they're waiting, they planted this trap, and they're waiting for them to show up so that they could be dealt with, and to deal with these ghouls in this way. But then all of a sudden we see Ryoko, which is Hinami's mother, just bring out her Kagune, which is very unique in of itself as well. We've been seeing a lot of unique Kagune, yes, because it's a given that each ghoul's Kagune would be unique, yes, but it's always interesting to see what shape and what abilities their Kagunes actually have. So she begins to bring out her Kagune, and she protects Hinami and tells Hinami that she's going to have to run. She's going to have to go back to Anteko. She was going to go back there. But I'm sure that Hinami, knowing deep down that something is not right and that her mother probably will not make it out of this unique situation alive. So she was crying. Um, Her mother basically had to shove her off for her to let go, and then when they let go, then the fight eventually begins, and Hinami's mother is saying that she won't let him pass. So I'm guessing that at that point, Hinami's mother will sacrifice herself to let her daughter go free. And the funny thing is, we see Kaneki walking around in that same era, but at the end of this episode, it seems like he notices something, right? And that's where the episode ends. So I'm guessing that Kaneki would be the one to jump in and save Hinami, right, from those dogs guys, right, who are fighting against the ghouls, right, save Hinami before they get to her to try and kill her, even though she's just a child. I'm sure that they will get to try to kill her at any chance they get, right? That's how ruthless these guys are. In fact, they even said that the whole motherly love thing that they witness between Roku and Hinami, it makes them sick. So they don't consider ghouls in the slightest least equals as though they consider, a normal human being. So overall, I thought that this was a pretty good episode of Tokyo Ghoul. I liked it, especially the whole backstory with Touka, with her reaction. We get an insight into more of who she actually is and what her backstory might actually be like, and we also get to know more about Jason and Hinami's family, and how all of and how all of that is involved, and also in regards to um Amon and Mado, right? What type of weapon these guys use it? They use it. It looks to me like some form of ghoul Kagune type thing, but they somehow they somehow synthesize Kagunis in a way that they are able to make them into weapons, right? And then they are using those weapons to fight against the same ghouls themselves. That's just my idea. I'm not sure if that's actually the case, but we get an explanation on that later. But overall, that's it. That's my review. So remember to rate, comment, subscribe. Sayonara.